Welcome to Wednesday night. If you're catching this live, you'll notice that we had to start at 7. We did adjust the schedule to start at 7. I do apologize. Generally, our start time is 6:30. However, we had some traffic and it caused a big delay for me here. So, rush to get started as quick as possible. We're starting a couple minutes earlier than 7 just because I was able to get the setup and everything done satisfactorily to be able to get this show. For the most part, I've got one thing that I've got to get up to go and grab, and that is, of course, our bag of miniatures. Because it's Wednesday night, tonight is all about inspiration. We're going to be building a PC based off of a miniature. So the goal of this whole program is to change up the way we build characters for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. My name is Joe. This is Green Oaks Gaming. This is our Twitch channel, and if you do have any questions, be sure to pop them in the chat. I do have it open so I can watch and see if any chat comments come in. Real quick, you can see the camera's already set up. I've got my player's handbook with the dice ready to go, and I've got another camera showing a blank character sheet right in front of me. Like I said, I do have to just grab my bag of miniatures real quick, as well as a light. I want to make sure that I have a good light for the character sheet, because we are, of course, going to be getting into some darker skies here shortly. So bear with me one moment. I'll be right back. All right, so the miniature I grabbed, I'm going to get it under the light here in just a minute. We're actually going to be building it as we're talking about it. So I'm going to swing my mic a little bit so we can get under the camera and look at the miniature in its packaging. I've got two here. Both of them are components. So I've got excuse me, I have got a female with a bird, and then I have a male with a staff and a spell effect. So as we're talking, I'm going to do just a real quick build on both of these miniatures and then decide which one we're going to use for a character. Now, whichever one we don't select, I'll use that one next week. So we're going to build both of them and then decide which one we're going to use. So if you are joining us in chat, feel free to vote up your choice as we work on these assemblies. I am not going to do a massive, huge cleanup. Both of these miniatures are from Reaper, which is a company here in Texas where I live. These are from the Bones 5 Kickstarter. As a call out, the Bones 6 Kickstarter will be starting up March 31st. So if you're interested in well sculpted miniatures at a great value, the Kickstarters are a way to go. So we've got a base, we've got a cape. This looks like a head, actually. It could be something in a hand. We'll see as we start assembly. Be very careful if you're using a hobby knife. Alrighty, a little bit of flashing there on the foot. We just need to make sure that's nice and clean so it mounts to his base really well. And I know not all the components are on there, but I'm just going to use some glue real quick. You can tell this being behind has got me a little flustered, because generally we take the whole time to build and talk about our character. So I want to make sure that I leave time to actually build and talk about our character. So first things first, I'm going to mount the body onto the base. And we'll hold that for a moment. So this one here, you can see there is a spell effect, looks like flame, in the hand. And then the staff, while it's a little crooked, we'll do a boil on that, where we'll dip it in boiling water, let it sit for a minute, and then pull it out, and it'll straighten right back up, and we'll pop it into cold water, ice water, for it to set. So let that super glue gel dry there. So you can see a big massive hole in the back. That's where this cape will go. It will sit like that. So that'll be the next part that we glue. Now some of these figures that we have used on the show have already been fully assembled. So no parts and pieces to worry about. There are some of the miniatures that have a little bit more dynamic sculpting to them that will require some assembly. This one being one of them. You can see with this big flowy cape, lots of components to the figure with pouches. It looks like a dagger on one side, little bits of armor. This one's actually kind of interesting because it's got a blend of armor and robes, the staff, the spells, and then the head will be the last part that we put on here. And this head actually looks more robotic than anything. Maybe a helmet, but I'm almost wondering if this is an automaton. So there is one assembled. Let's pop the other one here real quick. So the automaton is pretty cool. Now this one here is one that Tammy actually picked out. So we each grabbed one. Just looking for flashing that we thought was kind of cool. So a little bit of a bubble here that I'm going to have to dig into a little bit. And then we can fill that with some green stuff prior to painting, but we won't get there quite yet today. Now this one has a broom and a scroll case and a lantern. And again, I just want to quickly clean it up. I'm not going to do massive amounts, just enough to where when I go to paint it, I don't have big flashing. But the mold lines and everything we'll clean up before we do painting. And you can see a little bit of bend in there as well. Also would probably benefit from a boiling water bit. So that piece goes on there like that. Okay. Try to pre-fit just to make sure that they're going to go okay. Now if you do some miniatures that are like 3D printed or anything like that, there may be some assembly required on some of those as well. Not all the time, but definitely some cleanup as well. And then this figure here, you can see, I don't know how well it's going to show, but detail-wise, it's got a really, really good sculpted face and features. And with the Broom of Flying, it definitely gives off vibes of witch. I'm going to cut this off the sprue here, just because I don't want to damage the hand. And a little bit of cleanup. And that goes up above the head. One little dot of our super glue gel. I do use the gel primarily just because I'm able to keep it from like running. So for me, that's super important. And I'll hold that just for a moment. You can see holding a sickle there. So that gives me both witch and druid type of vibes. A little bit of a gap there. Let's go back in after this. Rather than above her head, I've moved it to where it's moving like out in front. So those are the two minis that we've got to work with. I'm going to say, because this one is an automaton and I don't have all of my source materials here, I've already run late, we're going to go with this one here and stylize a druid, because I want to keep things as easy as possible for this show. I got to grab my light for the character sheet. All righty. Now we can start getting everything prepped up and ready to go. Get this to where it's on plane with the camera. All right. So we are going with this figure right here. Let's adjust our cameras around as we move in towards our character sheet. Now, you know, on this channel here, when it comes to the stats, I'm going to roll them. But let's start at the beginning with a race. So I can see that there are no like pointed ears coming up out of the hair. Sometimes that's a indicator of elf or half elf, but no ears pointing out. Now that doesn't mean that we couldn't do an elf if we wanted to, but I think it's safe to say that we will keep this as a human. So for race, as a human. Now we know level is going to be 1, and I'm going to pop my name in as the player's name. No experience points. So far we've got a human. Again, this garb really makes me think druid, with the sickle, the broom, the bird, which ultimately could be a hawk, maybe a raven. It doesn't have a super long beak though. It is more pointed, so it could easily be a raven. Just a blunt billed raven, I suppose. The broom makes me think of witch. Clothing is pretty decorative, actually. There is what appears to be a dagger. Looks like some type of a skull. Component pouch. A little bit of a bodice there. And then this long hair. But last time we did a goth sorceress, so I'm going to avoid witch. Again, part of it is because I suppose we could do like a wizard. I don't know, a wizard or druid. They both kind of have feels to me. I do like the thought of a wizard needing components. There are component pouches. No book, but you've got a familiar. Yeah, we did a... Boy, I'm just torn. Druid. I have not done a druid on the channel yet. Let's see if anybody is in chat. Pop in there. Druid or wizard? What do you think? What are you feeling? What's the vibe here? I am thinking... And you can't go wrong any certain way, because you can always make a character fit that miniature. We just use it to drive in. Druid is what I'm going for the simple fact that the image has a person holding a bird, and while it's probably a quarterstaff on the back, something on the back. I'm looking at that as a sign. So for the class, we're going to say a druid. Now I'll have to do some explaining on some of the things like the broom. Now I feel that it should be a broom of flying, but at first level, my GM would definitely say no. So we'll have to do a little bit of figuring here. As a matter of fact, while I'm doing that, I just want to take a little quick peek here in my DM's guide, because, or you know what, I'm going to go to D&D Beyond. Let's find out what that Broom of Flying is all about, because that may determine what level that we are going to have this character. Maybe this will be one where we will move it up in levels and start at a higher level. Let's check it out. Broom of Flying is an uncommon wondrous item. An uncommon wondrous item. So that means we potentially could get, let me get my chart here and see what we have to say for an uncommon wondrous item. All my notes. Okay, for an uncommon item, we are showing that we could have that as early We could have it as early as 3rd level. Third level. We're going to make a druid. Maybe this is for a one-shot. And the GM says that we are going to play 3rd level characters. So we're going to build this druid to 3rd level. So we're going to have some auto level ups, etc., etc. But in the meantime, let's start out. We know because we're a human, we're going to get bonuses on all of our abilities because we're just using the player's handbook. We're not using the optional opportunities in some of the other source books. And we're going to roll some stats. Rolling 4, dropping the lowest. Ooh, ouch. That's not good. Not good at all. Ooh, man, my dice are cursing me. Maybe we'll talk to our GM and say maybe this time we should do point buy. Ouch. The dice are not loving me tonight. On charisma. Ooh, yeah, we got some bad scores here. We got some bad scores. So we'll have to. Wow, some of these are just awful. Man alive. Man alive. Yep, I'm going to talk to the GM and say my rolls were absolutely horrible. This is the figure that I want. It's a pretty epic druid that I want to play. And with a dexterity of 6 and a constitution of 9 and an intelligence of 8 and a wisdom of 11, I just don't feel that I'll be able to be as epic a character as what I'm envisioning on what my inspiration is. But our GM says this is the way that we're doing it, and I'll let you re-roll 1 score. Nope, he's an asshole. This GM is all pretty much keep it and let's see where it goes, because I'm the GM and sometimes I got to challenge myself. So that's what I'm going to do. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So let's go through and just start doing some assignment here. Wow. All right, so we know that's going to be a 13. We know that is going to be a 7. We know that's going to be a 10. We know that's going to be a 9. We know this is going to be a 12. And we know we've got an 18 charisma. If only I was building a bard. Now, because we're playing a druid, and we're going to be leveling it up, that'll help a little bit, but let's just start going through and taking some bits and pieces. We know our proficiency bonus is going to be +2. That'll keep all the way up through 3rd level as well. Our hit dice are going to be a D8. And because we're at 3rd level, it's going to be 3 of those D8s. Our hit points are going to be 8 plus our Constitution modifier, which is a 0, so we're going to start with 8 at first level. And then we get to roll an 8-sided dice for second and third. So that's a 7, that's good. And an 8, wow. So that'll be 23 hit points. We need all the help we can get on this character. So wisdom should be our highest one, though it isn't. And then constitution should be our second highest, which it definitely isn't. But that's okay. We'll see where this goes out. Oh, I forgot to add my. Oh, I don't have constitution for my hit points. That's right. That's right. Okay, so let's start listing out what our proficiencies are. This is going to be, we will have light armor. Make sure that we're able to see it on the screen. We'll move the miniature back over here so we can see it. All right, a light armor, medium armor, shields, non-metal. We've got clubs, daggers, darts, javelin, maces, quarterstaff, scimitar, sickle, which is what this character's holding, slings, spears, and then herbalism, kits. Saving throws for us, we are going to have wisdom and intelligence. For our features, and then for skills we get to choose from Arcana, Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Nature, Perception, Religion, and Survival. So this one here, I automatically am going to do Animal Handling. Oh geez, I don't know why I'm writing that in my features. That will be right here, Animal Handling. And let's also do you know what, I like medicine actually. I'm starting to think, because they're not the typical druid, I want to change things up and have this character be a little bit different than how I would normally play a wild druid. And then for equipment, we get a simple weapon, which I'm going to do the sickle. And then a scimitar, or a simple weapon. Now I did say there is a dagger there, so I'm going to do a dagger. Leather armor. Explorer's pack, and a druidic focus. And for the focus, I just want to actually look around here and see what the character has. So what could be the druidic focus? If there's anything that's like really apparent that your character is holding or anything like that, it would be ideal. However, I'm going to say, because there isn't a they're holding a weapon, the sickle in their hand, and then the animal on the other hand, I am going to say the druidic focus is going to be a crystal And it'll often be in a pouch, possibly in the lantern if they're using it for like a light spell, anything like that. So depending on what they're doing. All right, let's go real quick while we're on this and mark down for our spells. We are going to know, and I'm going to mark all the way up to 3rd level because we know we're going to be playing 3rd level. So spellcasting class is going to be a druid. We are going to have 2 cantrips. We are going to have 4 1st level spell slots and 2 2nd level spell slots. Now I do have to go back a little bit into the human because I did not get the traits, which I want to make sure we definitely do. So age, we know they're going to be late teens. However, this figure is a little bit more developed and older. So I'm actually going to say 22. Size, of course, is going to be medium, which gives us speed of 30 feet. Languages we can do. We're going to do common. And I'm going to do Elven. All right, see. Now let's see for our spellcasting ability. Let's get back to our sheet here. That is going to be 8 plus our proficiency, which is going to be 2, which would be 10, plus our wisdom modifier, which is only going to be 1. Yowzer. And then our attack modifier is going to be proficiency plus wisdom modifier, which is going to be a measly +3. So we've got to think about that as we're building this character out. Not as great on attack rolls. Spell DC isn't super strong, so we've got to start thinking about that. However, we do have wild shape past 2nd level, which is going to be good. Let's real quick just look and see here. We will also pick a Druid Circle. And we're 1 away from an ability score increase, which I would probably dump at that point into Wisdom, since it's the default. All right, so we know the Druidic language. And then our wild shape. Let's just go to that is going to be DC 1/4 CRs. And that is for 1/2 of rounded down, so we can stay in that shape for 1 hour duration. Whew. Now let's see, for our Druid Circle, that is going to be an important aspect. For that, out of the player's handbook, we have the Circle of the Land or Circle of the Moon. Let's do wow. So a lot of people go with Circle of the Moon just because it's got a little bit more offensive, I would say, opportunity. In my mind, though, they are really more nature-based, extremely nature-based, and the clothing on this figure just harkens back to me of much more finery. This is someone who is not spending their days out in the forest and fields, but rather in some type of an urban setting where dress and being charismatic is going to be more important. So I am actually going to go with Circle of the Land. Ooh. And I can tell you I have not used this one here. But let's go through and start feeling this out. So I am going to, on the spell casting class, I'm going to denominate Circle of the Land. And I am going to go with Underdark. Maybe they've got some type of fascination with the drow and the society and the ancient hierarchies that they've studied. They're not into the sacrificial aspects of the drow, but they have studied it, and that is the circle that they're going to choose. We do get a bonus cantrip, natural recovery. So during a short rest, we can recover spells. So we need to add that in features. But of course it's only 1/2 of our level, so only one. And then we get circle spells. So in this case we get Spider Climb and Web. All right. So that'll get us up to level for our spells. Ooh, rough, rough, rough. Now we have to pick our spells real quick, and then we'll get back into the other side. Let's see, how are we on time? Okay, we're good on time. I knew that was going to take a little bit right off the bat with running behind. Again, I do apologize, but I wanted to do a decent setup. All right, let's pick our spells. So this gal here, Underdark as her druidic land circle. It dresses in finery, has an animal companion. Bum, bum, bum. Let's do mending. Obviously, the clothing is very important, so mending is going to be very important. And I'm trying to think, do I do something offensive like Shillelagh or resistance. She does have the sickle. We're going to go with Shillelagh. At first level, we get 4 slots. I'm going to just pop back to the Druid here real quick. I'm trying to see what comes up next. Wild shape improvement and the ability score improvement. Okay, let's see. All right. Yeah, there isn't great ones coming up either. So let's jump into our first level. I do like animal friendship. Thus the bird. I am going to do a cure wounds. I am going to do entangle. And fog cloud. More about keeping things to a distance, obscuring, kind of not a front of the row fighter, more of that healing aspect. And then second level, let's do spike growth and flaming sphere. I'm looking at what can this person kind of stay a little bit more in the middle of the group, offer some healing, do some area attacks and slowdowns for enemies before they're able to get up to the party, but keeping them at bay. All right, let's pop back here into the equipment real quick, I suppose, before I get into the backgrounds. The backgrounds is always what I love the most. So we do have 11 on armor class for that leather armor, plus dex. Ooh. Yowzer. An armor class of 9. Horrible. Wowzer. Yeah, pretty poor there. All right. But let's go into the weapons here. For that sickle is going to be 1d4 slashing. For my bonus, I don't have a good bonus. I've got a -2. And that is also a 1d4. So yeah, not the best fighter out there for sure. Absolutely for sure. And then let's do the Explorer's Pack, which we got as part of the background. And that contains backpack, bedroll, mess kit, tinderbox, 10 torches, 10 days rations, water skin. There are also 50 feet of rope, alrighty. But this is where, following my DM's guidance and keeping the rolls as they are for great RP, my GM is going to allow me to use a Broom of Flying. So I will start out with magic item of a Broom of Flying, which is really cool. Thank you, GM. You're so generous. And now we'll go into the personality aspects, which I really like. That really starts to carve out the character. So I've already made a lot of assumptions about this character. One thing we haven't done is provided a name. And part of that is because in the humans aspect, it just pretty much says you can use anything you want. So I am going to go through and actually, I have a name that I use quite a bit for a lot of characters and NPCs, and that's Aja. And then for the last name, Stormwraith, just because it sounds cool. Aja actually picked that herself. That is not her real last name, but she thought it was really cool and deadly sounding. So Aja Stormwraith is going to be there. So let's pick a background. So generally for druids, they kind of recommend like hermits or outlanders, things like that, things more in tune with nature. But again, I like the aspect of this. This druid is more urban located. Studied the Underdark a bit, is kind of fascinated with that Underdark. Maybe there's some type of an aspect. So what I'm going to say is that Aja is not from the wilds, actually grew up very urban, but had a big connection with the city's botanical gardens and just absolutely raised and grown up there. And it could be part of, that background. But let's see what we have there. I'm trying to think about maybe a guild artisan. I want to just see what they have as far as kind of nature based here. Ooh, here we go. Yes, 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 yes. So I'm going to choose the guild artisan. And here's why. I'm not going to roll for it. I'm going to choose all of these. Last time we did all of the rolls. This one here I am not going to. So for this background is going to be an apothecary. Aja's parents owned the apothecary, and Aja worked in the botanical gardens to help stock and supply, and that's some of the ingredients were harvested from adventurers from the Underdark. So Aja got this fascination with the Underdark, and that's how the circle, the land circle for Underdark, was formed. All right, so let's see here. We do get some skill proficiencies on insight, which is good. I need it. Persuasion, which is good because I also have a very high charisma with that 18. One type of artisan tools, so that'll be herbalism or gardening tools, which works great on this larger pack on the back. All kinds of little, like the rose clippers and leather gloves, the little shovel and the little rake, all the things like that, all of the gardening tools in that pouch. Language is one of our choice. We are going to choose deep speech. And then this is proficient with garden tools. All right, and then a letter of introduction. Now this is where I'm going to change it, so generally they get a set of traveler's clothes and the 15 gold pieces. But I'm going to beg my GM to allow me fancy clothes that Aja regularly maintains via her mending spell. Now Aja, having grown up working for the parents at the Apothecary and having all these adventurers come in and sell different types of and fungi and mushrooms and things like that from the Underdark, as well as different types of roots and things like that. It's fascinated more and more and more by their stories, by the plants, and decided at that point to go adventuring. Now has gone through a couple of levels and thought, this is tougher than I thought. I'm not built for this, so I'm going to join a party. So there's an auto introduction into the party. So let's go through and do the traits. And again, I'm not going to roll for these just because I've got already such a good idea based on not just the miniature, but the abilities that we rolled. It's really helping determine who this character is. So is she a perfectionist, a snob, curious? Let's see. You know what I'm going to do is I like to talk at length about my profession. Just because I think that would be fantastic for RP aspects with such a high charisma, talking about spores, molds, and fungus. I'm getting kind of a Egon, vibe of what interests Aja, but being able to talk about it in a way that just captivates people by being so charismatic. I think that could be a lot of fun, just for fun. All right, our ideals. I am going to say it's all about freedom. Aja grew up working for the parents and now just wants to be free. which is a little bit of chaotic, which is okay. And then bond. Who is the bond? The workshop where I learned my trade is the most important place in the world to me. That one just speaks volumes. That's where mom and dad are. And whenever Aja gets whooped and beat down, going back to the apothecary is going to be important. So workshop is the most important place for me. And then flaws. I'll do anything to get my hands on something rare or priceless. That one I'm gonna I'm liking that one just because that's why Aja started adventuring, right? She could have just stayed working at the apothecary and waited for adventurers to keep bringing goods, but I think Aja is really looking for rare and priceless ingredients and knowledge too. I think that's a great commodity. So I'm going to put from the Underdark. Or for my work. Because I want it to tie back into who Aja is. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So let's go through real quick and just finish skinning out a little bit. Height comparatively for this character, when we put right next to the Goth sorceress we had next time, they're both very similar in height. Aja may be just a little bit shorter. Some of that could be in the base, however. So we're going to say 5 foot 2 inches. Weight, and there again, huge, big, blowing clothing. I'm just going to put medium-sized. And then eyes, human. Let's go with, so I'm trying to think of when I paint this figure, I want it to be very colorful. I'm really thinking colorfully painted. Eyes aren't going to be seen as much, but when I think about the colors that I want to use on this figure, I don't want to go just blacks and oranges like a witch. I really like the idea of this being a druid, but an urban druid. Oh, maybe we go with I came very close to saying pink camo just because I don't know. Eyes, let's just keep it simple and say the eyes are going to be hazel. Skin is going to be fair because I want the colors really to be in the clothing and in the little attachments. And then hair, let's go with on this figure here, we went goth there. We went brunette on our cleric. Let's go with blonde. All right, now the backstory. Because we get to jump a couple of levels, we can actually put that in part of the backstory. So Aja was born to Dillion and Marixia, just make them up, and worked in the family apothecary until 18. Learning a fascinating history. Yeah, history and knowledge of plants from the Underdark. Drew her attention and imagination. Deciding to collect specimens and explore the Underdark, Aja began to adventure in hopes of seeing the Underdark herself, after a few adventures, never coming close, Aja went back home and is looking for an adventuring party to better her success, to better her chances of seeing the Underdark. Let's see, treasure. So in here I do want to put in on the flying broom is the only treasure Aja kept from previous adventures. Aside from coin, that she put into her parents' apothecary, called, let's see, what's a good apothecary name? Called let's see, the parents' names are Marixia and Dylan and Aja. M-A-D, MAD, right? For Marixia, Aja, and Dillian. MAD. Wanted to say mad herbs, but I'm going to avoid that. Let's do mad bits of nature. Mad bits of nature. That's the apothecary's name. All right. Wow, look at that. 8 o'clock. We have built a character, a cool druid. Let's focus more on healing. Has an animal companion of a raven. We better write that down in possibly, let's do additional features and traits. We have a raven companion. That raven's name is, let's go with Bud. Even though it's a female raven who could have eggs and make a nest at some point, it's just a bud. Now I do also want to change out these 10 torches for a bullseye lantern, because that will match the sculpt with the lantern on the broom. And there we go. Aja Stormwraith. Our Guild Artisan Druid, 3rd level, ready to continue adventuring, hopefully getting into the Underdark, where they can get their own sense of what the flora and fauna of the Underdark is. Just like that, we've built a really cool character, all based on a cool, awesome sculpt. So there we go. One more to add to our 2 paint row, which is growing even further. We'll get this character sheet popped into the player's handbook, where we store all of our character sheets. It goes to the back of the line, and at some point maybe we will have an idea of what we're going to do with all these characters. Maybe use them as giveaways. Maybe we'll end up popping the finished painted miniature along with the character sheet up on our eBay channel. Who knows? Maybe we'll auction it off and donate it to a charity. Who knows? Open for ideas. If you're watching this VOD on our YouTube channel, please leave a comment and let us know what you'd like to see us do with these characters, with the miniatures, the finished product, I suppose is the easiest way to say it. But that's our show. Again, sorry we had to delay for half an hour. I know it can be a challenge when you plan to have a schedule in place and we end up having to delay because of something as silly as bad traffic. However, we thank you if you're able to watch this live. Make sure you check out our schedule, and of course follow us on our other channels. We're not looking for subscriptions. We do enjoy getting followers, so help us share, grow, and gain more followers, and bring the love of all things RPG to more people in the community. Thank you, and have a fantastic evening.